welcome. We really appreciate you being here tonight. The music that we had playing is an homage, not the music itself, but the fact that this church was one of the few churches at the time who embraced music, gave music lessons. It was very involved in the musical community, so we thought we would treat ourselves to a little music from now on for events like this. My name is Ann Burns. I'm the president of the Portsmouth Historical Society. We're going to be doing an overview of our past activities from our last annual meeting, which was held in September of 2020. Can everyone hear me okay? In 2020, and we delayed it a little bit because we were really hoping to be able to have the museum downstairs reconfigured and ready to show you, which we're very excited that we're going to be able to do tonight. First, I'd like to introduce our directors and officers. Excuse me for my glasses. As I said, I'm Ann Burns. We have Craig Clark, who's our vice president back there, and I'll be telling you, as we go through the presentation, I'll be giving you a little more information about all of our directors and officers and their various assignments. Bill Douglas over here is our treasurer. Rich Tulipsky in the back. Carrie McCullough is our curator. Oh, Rich is the recording secretary. Carrie McCullough is our curator. Jim Garman is here, town historian and past president. Dave Duggan. Dave Gleason. Stephen Luce. Becky Sattel. Beth Sousa, who couldn't be here because she's at the middle school enjoying her daughter's chorus concert. And I'm very happy to introduce Sarah Thurston Nekraz, who is a brand new board member as of tonight. So welcome, Sarah. Sarah makes our 5th member of the board of directors who graduated from Portsmouth High School. Little pieces of trivia, and 3 of us here are like 9th cousins from the settlers. We may use that in our trivia contest coming up, see if you can get the clues. So back in, shortly after September of 2020, we restarted our in-person lectures and book clubs. We try and vary them by topic and connect them to Portsmouth, but every once in a while have a little bit of an outlier because we've really found that people do enjoy coming and learning about other parts of things that happen in other parts of Rhode Island as well. So the book clubs are the Mayflower Level Hospital, Roger Williams. I probably shouldn't read everything. You can see it here yourself. Otherwise we'll be here all night. We do videotape almost all of them. We have a few lecturers who prefer not to be videotaped, but Rich Tulipsky videotapes them, and they go on YouTube, and they go on our website, and they also, we try and link them back into our Facebook page as well. So if you don't happen to get to one, they're there to be found. I'm sorry?
Cox Local Access.
Cox Local Access? You put them on Cox Local Access as well?
Cox Channel 18 there.
Ah, Cox Channel 18, there you go. So for events, I don't know how many of you saw the Kindred Spirits episode. We provided historical detail when Ghostbusters came to the Valley Inn to see how it was haunted there. That was kind of a lot of fun. But there's a long list of the different, and sometimes one-off events that we had. We're going to be duplicating them next year, as you'll see at the end. Kevin Fennessy is here, right here. We thank Kevin Fennessy, Bluegrass Musical Fest fundraiser at Common Fence Point. Very talented. If you ever get a chance to see Kevin, he does a great job with Portsmouth history and the songwriting, and he donated made a sizable donation to the Historical Society from that. So that was really very nice. You don't want me to read all these, right? Some of the things that we did, and even though it was during COVID, we had a lot of Zoom meetings, and then we were thankfully getting back into in-person meetings. But while all of this was going on, we created for the first time in the Portsmouth Historical Society history. We actually have a paid administrative assistant who is here, Carol Scanlon. She's in charge of our memberships, our renewal letters, and she's relieving. The reason we created it is because as an all-volunteer society, we were spending, a lot of our board members were spending a lot of time in actually doing bookkeeping work. So we just thought it was a very good investment of the society's funds to source that to a reliable person. We're so happy to have you. And then we can move on to use our talents for fundraising and other initiatives. We also created, and this was a big one too, a temporary part-time registrar, which is actually a title in the industry of curation. We were lucky enough to hire Carrie Macauley here, who is a local person. He grew up in Portsmouth, and he has a master's in library science and archival studies. So he does museum curation as a profession. And once our contract with him was up, and he'll tell you more about what he did, he came on the board as our curator. So we now have a professional curator on the board, which is an amazing development for the society. Past Perfect, we'll talk about more too, but we invested in Past Perfect, which is a museum management software program. Craig Clark in the back here was a co-creator, co-chairperson, and now the creator of the Battle of Rhode Island Association. We created the Butts Hill Fort Restoration Committee, working with the town and a lot of other stakeholders to bring awareness to Fort Butts. They raised money, raised awareness, and they have had 2 cleanups so that we're really putting Fort Butts back on the map. And it went so well and it grew so rapidly that another organization was formed, the Battle of Rhode Island Association, to incorporate all of Aquidneck Island, and they're going to be having their own website. So that was, I'm sure you all read all about it and went to some of the cleanups. It was an amazing effort. And in Friends Meeting House, about a year or so ago, we saw the for sale sign. Did everyone see the for sale sign? On our 1,700-year-old building, and nobody really knew what was going to happen with that. So the Portsmouth Historical Society got involved and helped them figure out what to do, and it turned out that there was an issue with the deed and who owned it. And again, Craig was instrumental in helping them putting them together with an attorney, and the sale was thwarted. The congregation is now back to being led in Portsmouth. They've fixed up the building. They've done a tremendous job. We're really happy with that progress and the fact that such an important building that we drive by every day was saved. I mean, it could have been torn down. It could have been condos. It could have been anything, but it stayed with its rightful owners. And if you ever have a chance, they welcome you with open arms. We had an open house there recently. It's beautiful inside. It's a nice facility, and you can also have events there too. So a big plug for the Friends Meeting House. We created the Portsmouth Historical Society Historic Photo Facebook page. I don't know if you're on Facebook or not, but it's really popular. We're using some of Jim's photos. People are adding their own photos. It creates a lot of traffic and a lot of media. A lot of people find out about what's going on at the Historical Society through Facebook. We established new collections policies and an anti-discrimination policy. And we also created an historic house plaque program that Dave Gleason is in charge of. I'm not sure where you are, Dave, but if you see the Portsmouth Town Hall plaque, they're going to look like that. The only criteria is that your home was built prior to 1900, and we're hoping that the town of Portsmouth is sprinkled with these. We'll help with research. The price for it is, there's an application form. It will be a fee of $300 to $500, depending on how much research you want done on your property or how much you already know and are provided. But it's a definite fundraiser, and it's definitely Portsmouth spirit oriented. So that's on our website too, if you have a house that you would like to consider for that. And then while all of this is going on, we get a lot of emails. We answer probably 50 inquiries for Portsmouth history, genealogy, houses, just general information. And those 50 plus inquiries don't include all the ones that we get from Portsmouth Historical Society of New Hampshire and Portsmouth Historical Society in England. We get a lot of inquiries. So what I like about that story is that when people put in Portsmouth Historical Society, our website comes up first. So that's really great. Next, we have buildings and grounds. This, by far, is probably one of, besides the museum being reconfigured, we now, for the first time, have HVAC air conditioning on the second floor. This is the first time we've sat here in this building having an annual meeting, being open in the month of December, and we have heat here. Dave Duggan, where's Dave Duggan? He deserves an enormous round of applause. If everybody could clap. Our building and grounds person, he is the guy who, I mean, this was probably about 2 years in the making, getting bids, contracts, we applying for grants, letting the workers in every morning, fixing the walls, painting. I mean, it's really mind-boggling how much went into preparing this building and then finishing it after the contractors left. So a huge thank you to Dave Duggan for all of his hard work. And while he was, doing that, we had gas heating. Instead of we switch out oil to gas, we upgraded our electrical system. We installed metal handrails on the second floor stairwell. We installed new doors on the old town hall, upgraded our security system. A little bit of the alarms, we're going to be upgrading the alarm system better. Painted the interior of the museum. And we created and installed informational QR placards around the museum grounds. I don't know if you've seen them outside. They're on stands and on the buildings. You can go up with your phone. If you're not familiar, you just open to your camera and hover over the QR code, and you'll get all the information on the buildings on the ground. So that's kind of nice. It's not the most original thing, but it's just nice. So now I'd like to introduce our treasurer, Bill Douglas, who is going to be giving our financial report.
Thank you, Ann. I will be brief and just assure you that so much of the success and the accomplishments that we've been able to realize this past couple of years has been due to the sound financial standing of the society, the grants that Ann alluded to, and certainly the stewardship and the generosity of you, our members. So thank you all very much for your support and also for coming tonight. Ann alluded to adding some professionalization, if you will, to some of the functions that for many years volunteers have been doing. We've certainly done that as well on the administrative side and engaged an investment advisor as well as a part-time bookkeeper and CPA to help us with some of the government filings that are required. And we've updated, or upgraded rather, the automation of how we are doing our bookkeeping from spreadsheets now to a software package called QuickBooks. And then we can go to the next slide if we may see. This is when you put your right hand over your and read the top line, or the largest one that you can see, and I apologize. But these numbers basically confirm what I alluded to, that we are in very good shape, considering with the support of grants, increases in membership, and even donations. One particular number that I'll call out is, at least in this snapshot, ending June 30th of 21, capital improvements that were alluded to in the amount of $72 or almost $73,000. And I did some crunching for you just to give you some context with regard to memberships from year to year, from 20 to 21. Dues and donations have both nearly doubled. Grants have increased over 139%, and then our investment yield as well to about 165%. All in the context, too, of our expenses remaining very modest, not only related to COVID and the fact that we weren't open, but also the stewardship and the guidance that the board provides. I'd be happy to field any questions, only easy ones, please. And then rotate it back to Ann, if that's okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We were very fortunate. We had, for grants, we'd like to acknowledge all of the folks that we got grants from this year, totaling $90,000. Champlin Foundation, the Town of Portsmouth, the CARES Act, Senator Seveny and Representative Courtvian. The Leonard Brown House has a leftover fund that they have given us money from, the 375th anniversary, the 1772 Foundation, the Rhode Island Foundation, actually gave us 2 grants, and we'll talk a little bit more about them later. One was an OT grant, the OT grant for curatorial acquisitions, and then they also gave money towards Butts Hill Fort, I believe. The Quinnipiac Land Trust, Rhode Island Center for the Revolution, and Citizens Bank through their matching gift program. So that's a pretty nice number. Membership. We service about 450 households. Next year, we're hoping to be able to break that down a little bit more, with telling you how many individuals, if you're even interested, how many individuals there are and how many family memberships are. We do have patron and benefactor memberships totaling 111 people, and those are the folks that are on the red insert on the inside of your program. So some of the things that we've done for our membership is, you can see our efforts to keep our membership strong. Some of the new member benefits are that we now charge for non-members for events and lectures, which before everything was free. And we probably were one of the last of the dinosaurs to not do that, to not charge. So now that's a member benefit for your reduced entrance into our events and lectures. And we found that charge them and they will come. And we've really made a lot of money with people giving us donations now at these, especially at our lectures, and we've gotten a lot of brand new members in the process, which we thought was kind of interesting. We had a couple of glitches with our membership program. We upgraded to Pass Perfect in June of 2020, and we have figured out that a whole segment of memberships got dropped for renewal. So you may find that in the future, please accept our apologies in advance if you get a double letter, or if you're, none of you here, I don't think it'll affect any of you here probably because you're here, but there's going to be a group of people who probably are going to get a much outdated, your membership lapsed like a year and a half ago. It was just a system glitch, but thankfully we caught it. And we caught it, another thing that we've done is we switched to MailChimp from Constant Contact. We're going to change our newsletter frequency to quarterly with monthly events update. And one of the things we want to try and do, we have right now about 50 people who we snail mail things to, and we're thinking that probably some of them have email. It allows us to get event information out on a more timely basis. So every month we can publish what our upcoming events are, and then follow up with a quarterly newsletter about other things. So we're gonna, if you know of anybody that doesn't, or if any of you do not if we don't have your email addresses, we'll be asking you for it. We're going to increase our dues in January of 2022, just modestly. It's currently it's $25 for an individual membership. It's going to go to $30 and $35 to $40 for our individual memberships, and all of them, the rest of them will stay the same. And we're actually going to name our level, we're going to name our memberships now, keyed into historical figures. We do have a gift shop. It will be open this evening. There are discounts available to members. We have a Portsmouth compact. We have an 1870 map of Portsmouth that is colored by school zone that's found their names on it. We have Christmas ornaments. Did you know we have Christmas ornaments? They're hanging on the tree and they're available for sale. We have books, mugs, and we are actually making progress on reproducing the Portsmouth flag. We don't have it in production yet. We're hoping that we'll have it available for Founders Day on March 7th. And then we hope to conduct a corporate membership drive in 2022. So that's it on memberships. We have a very lofty goal of 1,000, our strategic plan calls for 1,000 members. And so we're going to aim to, try and get to that number. Public relations, Rich Talipsky is our guy. That's our website right there that really does have a lot of interesting information on it. And then I already mentioned the Facebook Club. Museum update, so I'm going to turn it over now to one of the most, besides our HVAC, the second or equally most exciting part of the night is our museum downstairs, so here's Carrie.
Thank you, Anne. Well, good evening, everyone. As Anne said, my name is Carrie Hall-McAuliffe. I grew up in Portsmouth, although I'm living in New York City at the moment. I was glad to get home for this. And I descend, like many of you here, from a long line of Portsmouth residents dating back to our founders back in 1638. So this mission of Portsmouth Historical Society is really one that is important to me. I was thrilled to work for the Historical Society earlier this year, and it really is an honor to be the curator now for Portsmouth Historical Society, and we are so excited to show you what we have been up to and what we have for you waiting downstairs. So the Curator Committee has been very busy this last year. We took on a massive cataloging project to catalog and inventory all of our objects and artifacts. What we first did, I wanted to go through kind of the process with you, is we took all of our accession records that we had in various notebooks dating back to 1938, the year the society was founded, and we took all of that data and entered it into Past Perfect. That enabled us to search and query on that data, and from there we built and added catalog records for each individual object or set of objects, and we added over 950 catalog objects. And with that, I'll show you some screenshots of some examples. We added 750 photographs. We individually photographed most of the objects that we cataloged as well. Most importantly, and what we were all very excited about, is part of the record in Past Perfect allows us to put a location. So even if we don't have the item on display, we know exactly where it is. If we have it in storage, in a closet, we know exactly where it is, so it's safeguarded and we can easily find it if anyone asks for it too. We have also begun working with our photograph records. We rehoused all of our photographs in archival quality folders, and we have begun to digitize our collections as well. And that was all spearheaded by a wonderful board member, fellow curator, if I will, Becky Sattel. She was a huge part of that. We also have had another dedicated volunteer, Jerry Macumber, who has handled all of our archive collections. He has gone through our extensive collection of 19th century, 18th century, and yes, even 17th century documents, probate records, tax receipts, and what have you, and has gone through and processed them, and is making them available. And we've also gone through and identified other collections that we have, things like a collection on the Newport Agricultural Society, Reggie Vanderbilt's probate records, and many, many more to come. And then we also developed a collections policy that really safeguards our collections. We adopted it back in April, and it really just holds us accountable to make sure that we are handling the collections with care that you all have entrusted us with, and make sure that during the accession process, during the curation process, that everything is held to museum standards. And then, especially over the last few weeks, we have been very busy preparing some exhibits for you downstairs, which we are very excited for you all to see. Cleaning was probably the biggest part of setting up downstairs. And again, thank you to Becky for spearheading that. And we have also reorganized the museum, made more of a focus on individual objects. And we will be certainly working over the winter to add additional objects to our exhibits. We had a wonderful foundation from past curators who did an incredible amount of research on objects that we've had in our collection for a while. And before I go on to the screenshots, I did want to save really one of the best for last, is to thank another dedicated volunteer, is Anita Berwin. She is here in the audience tonight. She was also incredible and very dedicated in assisting us in building our 950 catalog records. And I don't have any screenshots of the ones that she did tonight, because primarily she worked with ones that had to do with our garments and apparel. And I wish I had a description of one of the garments that she did, because she worked for 40 years in the garment industry in New York City and really made some incredible descriptions for us to do further research in the future. So I wanted to move on to some screenshots that I had, and I wanted to just show you an example of a typical catalog record in Past Perfect. As you can see, this is an individual record for a metal box. What we have here, I wanted to just quickly go through the metadata that we've captured in each record. We have given each record a collection, so we've added each record to a collection, and that could be as general as you see here, housewares, but then others are more specific. For instance, we have a collection on the Benjamin Green Medical Collection, and so some are very broad, but others are very specific. Most important to museum curation is to have a unique identifier, and each object has been given a unique identifier, an ID, and that has been also labeled according to museum standards on the item itself so that it is identifiable. We went through, if you can go back. We also, to do our due diligence, captured any other cataloging number that was done throughout the years. Some was done 50 years ago, but this is the first time we've done a massive cataloging project. But we wanted to ensure that any data from years past was also captured. We've given them a title, and what is really interesting and quite fun to look through is we have been able to associate about 350 records back to their original accession record so that we know when it was given and by whom. For most, we've also assigned a date or a year range if we know about when the object was created. And then we've given each item a brief description as well. And as you can see, we've also given this particular object that is not on display an exact location. So as you can see, we can go right down to the shelf level of the cabinet that it is in, and we know right where it is. So, and it's really just to safeguard our collections and really properly care for them. So we're really excited about that. Next slide. This is just another example. I think we all, some of us who've been in the museum before recognize this fella. I just wanted to show this particular example because, as you can see, he does not have a location identifier, but rather it says that the item is on loan, and that is because he is part of a collection that is currently at the public library. So I just wanted to show this example to show that, especially when an item leaves the building for another exhibit, or as most of you know, we have an annual exhibit at the library. So this just tells us that this particular object, along with others, is on loan so that we know exactly where it is. Next slide. And then just to give you an example of the photograph records that we have started to build, we have about 125 in the system. We probably have about 300 or so more to go, and certainly more to come. We get wonderful photographs from you all every year. But again, we've assigned a collection, given a unique identifier, given it a title and a date, and this will really allow us to search for anything that you all are interested in. If you want to come in and search for any photographs that we have on Founders Brook or Glen Manor, we'll be able to simply search and see what we have in our collection rather than digging through boxes and boxes. So very exciting. And just one more slide. I just wanted to give you a view of, you are able to click on the thumbnail there and enlarge the photo as well. This in particular is a photo of Founders Brook from the dedication ceremony in 1936, which really was the catalyst for the founding of the society. During our project, we went through all of the original meeting minutes, and one of the reasons why the society was founded in 1938 was because of the celebrations that occurred 2 years prior for the state and colonies' 400th founding. So we're really excited for the projects that we've been working on these past few months. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and we are very excited to finally reopen the museum downstairs and show you what we've been up to. Please let us know your thoughts and any particular exhibits that you would like to see as we continue working over the winter. And thank you all for coming, and I know we have just a few more things to discuss. Right?
We can do questions at the end unless anybody has any burning questions for Carrie right now.
I'll be available, and I'm happy to show anyone a brief demonstration downstairs as well.
And now I'd like to introduce another member of our board of directors, Stephen Luce, who is going to talk about an exciting new find.
Thank you, Ann, and good evening, everyone. So, now the picture there is actually the picture of the town farm cemetery. So that isn't exactly the picture I was wanting with that, but that's all right. Back in the spring, I did an internship with the town of Portsmouth through the town planner, Gary Crosby, to catalog all of the cemeteries in Portsmouth, to photograph all of them, to write up condition assessments of each cemetery and summaries. And it was a wonderful experience. I was able to see historic cemeteries that most people are not able to see because they're on private property or in some way difficult to see. So that's a picture of actually the Poor Farm Cemetery, the town asylum cemetery on the north rim of Lawton Valley. And that was one of the cemeteries I was able to clean up and to research for the town. It's very difficult to go to that cemetery. You do have to coordinate it with Raytheon Security. This past October, I was able to do a tour of this Poor Farm Cemetery and Captain Joe Lawton Cemetery, which is cemetery number 20 in Lawton Valley. And it was a wonderful day. It was a wonderful experience. I think everyone enjoyed it. Included with those two cemeteries, there was actually an unrecorded cemetery of just fieldstones, as you see right here in this picture, actually, similar to that. That was part of that tour. Now, in setting up for that tour and preparing for it, I was going through that wooded area and was actually looking for an unrecorded cemetery that had been mentioned on previous cemetery information on the Rhode Island Historic Cemetery Commission's website. And sure enough, I was able to find a couple of fieldstones that were in the ground. And interestingly, on the day before I gave the tour, which was on Saturday, October 2nd, when I was finishing cleaning, I actually found a marker lying flat on the ground. Now this is unusual because after so many centuries, these markers are either destroyed or have already been found. And very quickly, just read a little bit of my information. There were 7 uninscribed fieldstones that represented at least 6 burials in this new cemetery, newly discovered cemetery. And the one inscribed grave marker, it's actually the headstone, is, as I've written there in the parentheses, Lucy, servant of John Jepson, Esquire, died April 19, 1776, aged 48 years. And this is the first time I have seen a marker in Portsmouth with the word servant. And we know, knowing who John Jepson was, he was a prolific enslaver. She would have been an enslaved individual. And she would have been black, because on the 1774 census, it does show that John Jepson had 7 enslaved black people. He had the 3rd most in Portsmouth, and so Lucy was likely one of them, as she passed away just 2 years later, 1776. This new cemetery is going to be called the Lucy Jepson Burial Ground. Even though Jepson was the name of her master, her owner, it was probably still the only last name she ever had and was known by, as far as we know, without finding more information. And that new cemetery is going to be PO for Portsmouth 064. So there's about 60, as I mentioned, 60 cemeteries that we know of within Portsmouth. Of course, there are dozens more that we just don't know that anyone is buried there because you don't have a marker to show that this is an old cemetery in the woods. But as far as the ones that we know of, there's at least 60, well, now 61. One other thing about Mr. Jepson, he was a founding member of the Fellowship Club for slave ship captains. So it's kind of interesting, if not very odd and weird, to have a club of slave ship captains, but there you go with that. And I don't know if the picture of the gravestone, was that included, Rich? If I advance this one forward, did you include that picture I had?
I didn't have that.
Okay, that's too bad. I mean, it's on my phone. I sent it to him.
Can we bring it to the museum later or not?
But the
Actual headstone.
Oh, the headstone's out in the old town hall. So when I first found this engraved marker, since it was lying flat in an area that has not been recorded or properly marked in any way, I was worried that it might get stolen or destroyed. So I brought it here to the Historical Society, cleaned it up, and it's in the old town hall right now. Once we get a sign, a state sign, because you may have noticed these cemetery signs as you drive by these old cemeteries. They're numbered and they have the name of the town. And once we get one of those signs from the state, and I will clean up that cemetery a little more and make it a little more official, I'm going to repatriate that stone back into the cemetery. And just hope and pray no one destroys it, but I think we're pretty good with that. There hasn't been, knock on wood, much vandalism that I've noticed in these historic cemeteries lately over the past, let's say, decade. It was a very big problem in the 70s and 80s. Not sure why, but not so much any longer. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. We thought it'd be fun to sort of share with you some of the historical work that we've done this past year, not just some of the more business-like parts of the presentation.
If people would be interested, I can bring it into the museum.
I think you should. Yeah. We'll go, while you're viewing the museum, we'll bring the headstone in so that you can see it. Okay. Wow, we're moving right up. We are almost done.
I tried to go quick. I know people want the refreshments downstairs. I do.
Yeah. So recognition, some of our folks here have already been mentioned, special recognitions. The board members, as you can imagine, and I don't know if it's sort of sunk in yet, the hundreds and hundreds of hours of work that the volunteers of the Portsmouth Historical Society has done over the last year to accomplish all of the things that we've been sharing with you. But there are some notable volunteers who aren't board members. Anita Berlin was already mentioned, she's here. Jerry Macumber was mentioned, I don't think he's here. Joe Studlick works on buildings and grounds and also was very instrumental in the Butts Hill Fort Restoration Committee. Gloria Schmidt runs the Portsmouth History blog and is really helpful in researching and sharing Portsmouth history. There's still a lot to learn, as Stephen found out, just finding that cemetery. And now, maybe you didn't know who John Jetson was, and you're on Jetson Lane a lot. Now you'll know why that street was named, or maybe renamed if too many people find out about it, but about Jetson Lane. So Gloria Schmidt is also, her history notes, you can Google that, it's also on our website. Gary Gump is here. He's a former board member. He had his hand in all kinds of grant writing and membership, and even though he's not on the board anymore, he's still a valuable resource to us, and we thank him. Bob Watts, who's not here, also was on Buildings and Grounds, and he pitches in quite a lot, supporting Butts Hill Fort, supporting our buildings. He was the one who had the handrails installed, and he was so passionate about making the building a little more comfortable for people climbing up and down those stairs. The handrail, you may have not noticed it, but if you go down, it's just a tiny piece of wood with a groove at the top. That's the original handrail, and now there's a solid metal handrail. And he was so passionate about it, he actually paid for it. So big thanks to Bob Watts. Maureen Daniels is on our Butts Hill Fort Committee, but she also volunteered to do the vector file for the Portsmouth flag that I keep talking about. So she donated a lot of her professional graphic design work to the Historical Society for that, which is really exciting, right? And this is David Sanborn Chase, who drove, and his wife, and they drove all the way from Connecticut to attend our annual meeting. And we have part of our collection downstairs is a direct result of their generosity of their artifacts from their family collection, so we thank you. Our community partners that we are very thankful to have, the town of Portsmouth, the library, the Arts Guild, PBA, Arlington Park Preservation Society, the Garden Club, who does our wreaths for us every year, Common Fence Point, Thriving Tree, Clements, Kevin Fennessy, who's here, who I mentioned before, Gulfstream, who hosts events and is a corporate sponsor, and then the 375th Legacy Committee, who still has leftover funds, and when we need special projects done, that's a nice resource to have. So we thank all of our community partners. Can you see the view? We've been very busy getting ready for today and running all of the events that we've been having, sort of back to back, a lot of them in the last, especially the last couple of months. These are a few future events. A trivia contest, which we were running a student one, and it was the middle school against the high school, and then an adult one. During COVID, that had to go away, and it's really kind of hard. It's really hard to get into the school systems now with COVID. So it's just going to be an adult trivia contest. It's going to be at Gulfstream. Founders Day, our traditional celebration, March 7th. Prudence Island field trip, they have a historical society out there. We are actually going to rent some large vans and do a field trip. That's going to set, there's so many people that want to go. So many people say, I'm from Portsmouth, I've never been to Prudence Island. So that should be a lot of fun. We don't have a date for that. John McNiff, this is something that got postponed. Mr. Garman will be lecturing up a storm, I'm sure. He's always available, which is great. The cemetery tour that Stephen did before, you may either repeat that because that was a sellout, or do a new one. Polo was a lot of fun, we'll do that again. And I think we'll probably end up doing the Thrive, the music event that we had at Thrive. When we have music, people come. And the Portsmouth Arts Guild did some tremendous art pieces that were a great success at the auction. So there's a lot more, but those are just a few of the things we have. So how can you help? Well, first of all, again, thank you for being here and thank you for being members and supporting us. Ways that you can help recruit new members. You can increase your level of giving. You can donate artifacts to our collection, especially now that we have more climate control and actually now that we have more space. A lot of things were cleaned out over the years. The Historical Society was always really busy in the summer, curating awesome displays that they changed every year. But because we weren't heated up here, and just the way that it ran for all of those years, the doors were locked, the pipes were drained, and the doors were locked, and the collections were put in boxes until they opened up in the spring. Now that we're going to be open all year round, and we've had this all of these manpower hours and our professional curator here, we were able to sort through all the boxes. We used COVID and being closed during COVID as a time to really go through everything, as Carrie said, and we found spaces. We reorganized rooms, we got storage. It's just been an amazing experience. So we just want everyone to know, to think of the Historical Society when you're cleaning your attics and basements, because there's some cool things in there. Join a committee. So we need help. We need a lot more help. And I have I have sign-up sheets for all of our various committees that I'm going to have downstairs. So it's a lot of fun. Our timing is somewhat flexible based on your timing. And any few hours that you might have to donate to the society to keep things moving and do more and better work, we'd love to have you join us. New ideas. We'd love to hear what part of Portsmouth history you don't know about that you'd like to learn more about. If we don't already have it in our archives, we can look into it and develop new historical information. And there's a lot of people in the town that actually have a lot of history. A lot of people right in this room actually know a lot. And so we can tap into those resources and add to our storytelling, which is really our mission. We also have a few openings on our board of directors. We have the corresponding secretary position, which is an officer position, is vacant. So if you like to write letters and if you're organized, you don't necessarily need to be an historian to be a corresponding secretary. You don't need to be an historian to really fill most of the positions on the Historical Society. It's always a plus, of course. But if you don't, we have the information to share. So that is it. Thank you so much for your support. I would be remiss in saying that none of the success of the Historical Society we wouldn't be where we are today if it weren't for the hard work of our predecessors. So we thank everybody that's worked at the Historical Society and visited us and have been members over the very many years. A nice story I'd like to tell about Sarah is when she was telling her mom that she was joining the board of the Portsmouth Historical Society, and she's actually going to be our new docent coordinator. Her mother said, I used to be a docent at the Portsmouth Historical Society in the 70s, and she didn't even know that. So we have a long history of a lot of good work here, and I thought that was a great story. So does anybody have any questions? No questions? Well, I thank you. This is actually longer than I thought it was going to be. So I think we did a thorough job in explaining what we are up to, what we do for you, our members, what we'd like to do for you, our members. And now, downstairs, I hope just visualize what the museum used to look like before. And I would invite you all downstairs for some refreshments, for some sign-up sheets, for some sign-up volunteerism, and to take a look around at the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of work and over $100,000 of investment over the past year in our museum property. So thank you again for coming very much.